Hello everyone, this is Yarni, and in today's webinar, we'll be taking a recap of Zoho Sheet in 2025. Since we're at the end of the year, the session is all about looking back at everything we've released and how it can help you work smarter going forward. Joining us is our product expert Prabhakaran, who will be here to help us with any questions you have during the demo, so feel free to drop them in the chat and our experts will get back to you right away. Let's quickly go through today's agenda. We'll start with a rundown of all the major features we've introduced this year, what they are, and how they can make your day-to-day work smoother. And then we'll move into a live demo where I'll show you real examples so you can see how to use them. Zoho Sheet is a free cloud-based spreadsheet app that is built for modern teams. It can help you create new spreadsheets as well as edit the existing ones. It is also a part of the Zoho's Office suite, which includes Zoho Writer, an online word processor, and Zoho Show, an online presentation software. And throughout this webinar, we'll be using Zilker as a fictional clothing brand as in our example, and it's just a simple use case to help you see how these features are in action and to show you Zoho Sheet works with businesses across different functionalities. Here are the functionalities we'll cover. We'll start with data entry and organization, calculation and analysis, AI, automation, and collaboration. So let's say at Zilker, data comes in from different places, stores, warehouses, and different teams, and sometimes it is the product details, employee information, or even customer feedback. And we collect it through forms, manual entry, and it doesn't always end up in the same format. So the real issue here is pretty simple, getting all this data into one place in a clear and consistent way so it can be used later. So in this section, we'll look at a few features in Zoho Sheet that'll help us do exactly that, bring in different types of data together, keep it clean and organized from the start. So let's see what are the features we're going to cover under data entry and organization. We have data from picture, multi-select pick lists, cell limit, and shapes. Starting with data from picture, you can convert any printed table into an editable spreadsheet data in seconds, and let's see how that works at Zilker. We have multiple outlets where my store manager is going to send me a photocopy of the printed document, and I just want to digitize them without having to manually type them. So I'm going to go to the data bar and select data from picture. I'm going to drag my item here. So let's say Zilker inventory list is my item for today and click it open. I can also set the dimensions right and make sure you have a clear picture of your image. Only then this can detect the proper formatting and the text inside your image. So click next. And this will give me a preview of the original image, and I can change if there's something to edit here directly from this preview. And once you select on any of the cells from the preview, you can also see that it's being highlighted in the original image. And I'm gonna say I want it in the existing sheet. Select that range and click next. This way I don't have to manually type them down anymore in my spreadsheets, especially when I have them in a different format. And let's jump back into our overview. And next we have multi-select pick lists. Pick lists generally help us keep our data consistent and our entries very clean. And earlier we did have pick lists where you could only select a single option from the drop-down, but with the multi-select pick list, you're no longer limited to just one entry per cell. So let's see how that works at Zilker. Here I have the product names and the materials used for those products in different columns, and what I'm going to do is use the multi-select pick list to say that there are multiple materials used for just one product. Instead of having to use commas and keeping it very messy, I'm just going to use the pick list option to select multiple items within the same cell while keeping it structured. So select this entire range, go to the insert bar, and select pick list. Create pick list. You can see it is initially set to single select, and I'm going to switch it to multi-select and given my options here. Once they're set, I can also select a formatting option for this. Set a color, purple, and blue. Now once that is set, you can also specify that you want the items to be arranged horizontally or vertically. I'm going to choose horizontally and click create. Now when you go back to the cell, you can select multiple options into the same cell while keeping it structured. And one thing about pick lists in general is that you can always copy the range and paste it to another whenever you want the same pick list elsewhere instead of having to recreate them. Now that is about pick lists. And next up we have cell limit. Now as businesses grow, the data grows with it, and Zoho Sheet now supports larger volumes of data. The row limit has been increased to over 260,000 rows. The copy, cut, paste and fill series action now support up to 3 lakh cells, and each workbook can hold up to 10 million cells. This means the teams can continue working on the same sheet without breaking data into multiple files. That is about the new update with the cell limit. And next we have shapes. Once your data is in place, teams often need to explain how work actually flows in your business. So shapes help us visually map these processes inside the spreadsheet. So at Zilker, I want to say that I want to draw or create a workflow process around in this sheet for my employees to understand how work flows within the business. So what I'm going to do is use shapes to just show you how this works around at Zilker. So go to the insert bar and select shape. And we have text boxes and symbols here. You can add them inside your spreadsheet. And you have shapes where you can go on to add any of these. You have a lot of data. And next we have shapes Once the data is in place, and the teams often need to explain how work actually flows in the business, and shapes help us visually map these processes. Once the data is in place, teams often need to explain how work actually flows, and shapes help us visually map these processes inside the spreadsheet. At Zilker, we can draw the flow of a product from design to production to delivery using shapes. So I'm going to say I want to just give a workflow of how things go around to my employees, and for a single shirt, it goes from design to production and to different processes, finally to delivery. So I'm going to use shapes to mark these processes. To do that, go to the insert bar and select shape. This is the editor window where you can put in text boxes or symbols. You also have a wide range of the shapes that you can insert into your spreadsheet. And if you select the continuous raw mode, you can go on to add multiple of these shapes without having to come back to the panel. And you also have the draw with pen features where you have lines, curves, and freeforms. And finally, we have diagrams, which is what we're going to use today. And as I said, it's a process, so I've selected process here, and I'm also setting the level to 6 because I have 6 different processes going around for a single product, and I need this hexagon, so I'm going to choose that. Now, as you select this shape, you can see the formatting options to the right. You can arrange them as an alignment, and you can change your formatting options for the text and the shape and its color as well. And I'm gonna click insert, and this is how it looks. And let me show you how it looks once everything has been set with the text. And I've also changed the formatting, and this is how it works from design to the delivery of the product. Now, that is everything about data entry and organization. We started with a data from picture, which can help you insert any kind of data into your spreadsheet, especially when you have them as a picture already in your phone or your laptop. You just want to digitize them. You can use data from picture, and you can use multi-select pick list to keep your data organized while having multiple things inside the same cell. And we saw how Zoho Sheet has improved their cell limits so that you can keep all your data under a single sheet. And now we saw shapes, how they can help you visually map processes inside your spreadsheet. And next we'll see calculation and analysis. Once your data is captured and organized, the next step is understanding it. Teams often need to clean up their text, look at data from different angles, and working with tables, conditional formatting, and pivot tables itself. And Zoho Sheet makes this part much simpler by improving their text functions, filtering, and visual analysis. So firstly, under calculation and analysis, we have regex functions. Now these help us find patterns and extract them or replace them with any specific part of the text. And these patterns will also help us identify structured information like codes or email formats. So let's say at Zilker, here for regular expressions or regex functions, we have the partner names that we have in the company and the email IDs and their domain names. So what I'm going to do here is simply extract the domain names from these email IDs so that I can filter these data and then send them emails collectively. So to do that, I'm going to use something called a regular expression. For this particular use case, this is the regular expression. And before we use the regex functions, there's one common question here, that is, where do these regular expressions come from? Now this regex or regular expressions, it isn't a program or a code, it's just a way to describe a text pattern. Instead of saying find this word, you're saying something like find numbers or just extract text inside that or inside the brackets. You're giving some kind of a pattern to detect from the specific text. So you usually don't write regex from scratch. Most people just reuse the existing patterns and just tweak them just like any spreadsheet formula that you have. And the key is just to be clear about the problem or whatever it is that you want to extract. Now once you know that, you can simply use the right pattern to find it. And you don't need to learn all of the regular expressions, and some of them, just a few common examples, will be covering most of the use cases. And to make it easier, we'll also share a link with common regular expressions and examples you can directly use inside Zoho Sheet. So with that context, let's see how it works in Zoho Sheet with a quick example here. So as I said, I just want to extract at example.com, at mail.com. So what I'm going to do is put an equal sign, regex extract. This is the text from which I want to extract the domain names, and I'm giving in the regular expression. So this is the regular expression that says take anything that is after the @. So I'm just giving that in and return. So this way it'll just return me the required text from the entire cell. That is about regex extract. And next we have regex match. Now let's say I have the product names and the product codes here, and what I want to do is to check if the product codes are of the consistent formatting that I've set. Now you can see some of them are in the wrong format here, as in here it has the wrong format, and some of them are incorrect or inconsistent in their formats. So I'm just checking if they are following the regular expression or the pattern or the format that you've given for the product codes. And if it says true, yes, it is following, or it is going with the pattern. If it is false, it is otherwise. And next we have regex replace functions. And in the last use case, we saw some of the product codes were inconsistent in their formats. So what we've done is use these regular expression and use the regex replace functions to just simply replace them with the right format. And you can also check out the most commonly used regular expressions and the ones that we support in the file that we'll be sharing. That is about regular expressions. And next we have table slicers, And earlier, filtering meant opening up drop downs and applying conditions one by one, but slicers now provide a very visual way to filter your data. And while slicers were also available to pivot tables released a year ago, we have also introduced this to tables. So let's see how that works around at Zilker. Go to that data set. Here I have a bunch of information about the items that we have in our company, and I just want to filter this based on the region. I want to check what are the products available in that region. I'm going to do it based on the region, so let's just go to the format tab, go to table and add slicer. Let's say based on region and click OK. This is your slicer. Let's just move it. This way you can format and you can filter out your text using table slicers. These are a much more easier way to do it instead of the usual clicking on the drop down, selecting these items based on that, and then filtering your data. That is about table slicers. Now we have another very useful update in this conditional formatting. That is, sometimes it is much easier to just simply view your data when you have an entire row highlighted based on a condition. So let's say at Zilker we have the inventory list here, and some of them are running low on stock. So what we want to do is just highlight the products that have low stock. But also I want to highlight the entire row instead of just that column, so that I get to know what product it is exactly without having to confuse it with anything else. So what I'm going to do is select this entire range, go to the format bar, select conditional formatting and classic. So here I'm going to select any cell value that is less than 10 if it is running low on stock. And as I said, I want to highlight the entire row and not just a column. But earlier, if you wanted to apply this conditional formatting to the entire row, you had to use absolute cell referencing or apply formulas to that to make that happen. But now we have an option called apply to row. So if you just simply check on that and select a column based on which you want the data to be just formatted, let's say based on stock. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to change the color again to red and click apply. This way you can see the entire row has been highlighted instead of just that column, so you can clearly see which product or the product code without having to confuse with the other items above or below. And that is about the important update in conditional formatting. And next we have sheet level filters. Before this, using a table filter meant you couldn't apply any other filters on the same sheet. So let me show you what I mean by that. Now here, if you see, we used a table where we could also use the drop downs here. We could either use this or even apply a slicer to this data set. And we also have a plain data set here where we even used conditional formatting. But before this update, you couldn't have applied a filter to this particular data set, which is a plain data set, by the way. It is not converted into a table yet, and you can still use a filter because in the earlier updates we do not have this option. You can now use up to how many tables you want, any number of tables you want, and still use a plain data filter for your data set. So let's just select this entire range and use filter here to filter this data without having to convert this into a table. Some common mistake, or something that I personally do often when I'm using filters in tables or just filters in general, is that I often forget that I've used a filter when I leave the spreadsheet and I come back in, or I log back into my spreadsheet. I often forget that I've used the filters, but the problem, or in fact it's a good thing about spreadsheet, is that they keep on the filters on even when you leave the sheet. So whatever data you filtered stays on as filtered. So sometimes I keep forgetting that we are actually using a filter and I think my data is completely gone, but it just means that I'm actually using data filters and I've just filtered my data. It's not gone somewhere else. Now that is about all the calculation and analysis. We saw regex functions where you could use to extract any part of the text or find or replace them with anything else. And next we saw table slicers, which are a new addition to our tables, even though they were released a year ago to pivot tables. And next we saw how to highlight an entire row with conditional formatting without using any formulas in your spreadsheet. And next we also saw that we can now use data filters to just a plain data set without having to convert them into a table. And next we have AI capabilities. That is, we have translation and pattern fill. Even when your data is well organized, some of the tasks are repetitive and time consuming. With Zoho Sheet's AI features, they can help you reduce this effort while keeping the results very accurate. So let's see these in action. So go to the AI. So firstly, for translation, let's say our company, we collect customer feedback through forums and our customers come from different regions. So we want to know what they actually mean through in their own languages, and we want to convert it into a language we actually understand. Now we want to provide better customer service, so what we're going to do is use the Zoho Sheets feature that is translate to get them into a language we actually understand. Select the entire range, go to the review tab and select translate. I'm going to click on translate, and I can either copy this item and paste it wherever I want to, or click on existing sheet to give in a start cell, or I can even replace the source by which this will get translated to English because that's the language I chose, and click on insert. So that way you can get your customer feedback translated and give them better quality service. And next we have pattern fill. It helps us automate repeated text work, and let's see an example for that as well. Now if you have any repetitive work that follows a pattern, we can definitely use pattern fill to do that. Now here I have the employee names in my company and their first names and last names in different columns. I'm just going to give in the data for the first row, that is Liam and Carter separately, and I'm going to select the entire range, go to the data bar and select pattern fill, and it will generate the rest for me. And I also have a shortcut that is Command E, so you can just generate them without having to even go to the data bar. That is about the AI capabilities in Zoho Sheet in 2025. We saw how to use translation feature to translate it from different languages so you understand and give back better quality customer service. And you also saw pattern fill, where you could generate, especially when they follow a pattern, you can just cut down on the time consuming tasks and keep your text organized. And next we have automation. So once the data is ready, the next step, we're going to automate some processes here using something called a merge template. Now, merge templates already helped us create personalized documents like pay slips from spreadsheet data. So let me show you how to use this particular feature, that is the update, using the scheduler option in merge template. So let's see how to use that. So for example, this is a template that I built from scratch within Zoho Sheet, and I'm going to use this template to send payroll documents to all of my employees at Zilker. So I'm gonna say I have a list of data of all of their payroll details in a separate spreadsheet, and I'm just going to use that for each employee by automating that process instead of having to manually do them. So I'm going to use merge template to automate that. With the new feature, that is using the scheduler option in automation, I'm just going to set it right so that my team has more flexibility as in when they want things to go out. So what we're going to do is convert this into a merge template first. Go to the tools bar and select merge template. I can convert this, click proceed, and this is how your merge template looks. And you can now click to add source as in the file, or you can also bring in data from Zoho Sheet, Forms, CRM, or Creator. I'm gonna say it's in this file here for me, Zilker Payroll, and click it open. And I'm gonna import and map the fields accordingly. Now let's say for each of my employee, I want the employee ID to be placed here, and then employee name to be placed here, and designation to be placed here. In the same way, you can go on to give in your fields as in wherever you want to. You can place it using these placeholders or the mapping fields. And this is how your sheet will look once everything has been set. I've said these are the things that I want inside the payroll for my employees, and I'm going to automate this process for the rest. So to do that, I'm going to say I want to send email as an attachment to all of my employees, and with this new scheduler option, I'm just going to set it right so that the emails go on time, on the exact date and time that I want to. So I can also click to view a preview here, and when to run merge is what we're specifying now. That is by clicking on later. We're gonna say on December 31st at 12 I need this to go out. So I'm just going to select a date and time for it and click OK, and the merge has been set to later, and I can click on schedule merge, and in this pop-up you'll just give in an attachment name, and in the to field select the email so you can actually send them emails based on the email IDs that you have in the spreadsheet data. I've given it a subject. You can also send yourself a copy and schedule merge. Now the merge has been successfully initiated, and all of my employees will get to see their payroll documents right on time. And if you just want to see a preview of how it'll look for your employees, let me show you that. So let's say for employee 1, that is Liam Anderson, I have this is a payroll they have their net salary here, all of the fields that we placed, and based on that it's been formatted. Now that is how you run your merge. You can directly run your merge from here as well, but we already scheduled it. So we're gonna go back to the original data that we saw here in automation. So with this merge template feature, that is the scheduler and merge template, you can schedule your payroll documents or any document that you want to go at a time that you set and not just right away. And next we have collaboration, where we'll be discussing about workflows, mark as final, and custom email notifications. So firstly, for workflows, let's see how to use that. Let's say I have a lot of important document in my spreadsheet, and I want some of them to go through a review process. It is production related or some of the inventory lists that we have, and I want the manager to just have a look at it, review it, and then it'll go for the final stage. So to set that review process within your spreadsheet, we're going to use workflows. To do that, go to the file bar and select workflow and assign workflow. You can set either for a review process or an approval, or just both. We're gonna go for review now. And in this pop-up, you can set on or give in your reviewer's email address, give in your note, and then set a review date, and then click send for review. Now you can also see the workflow blueprint here. This will have all the what happens if the changes have been suggested, and all the review process from the beginning till the end. And that is how you set a workflow. And if you go into the sheet homepage, you can also see that there are some workflows that are set waiting for my action, and some started by me. In this, you can just view what are the workflows you've been set. If you have something to review, or if you want something reviewed, all of them will be listed here. And next we have mark as final. Once everything is approved or reviewed, mark as final locks the sheet in a read-only state. This prevents any accidental changes or edits and makes it clear that the data is finalized. So we went through different workflows, we set a reviewer, we had different sheets to be reviewed or approved for production at Silker. So what we're gonna do is, once everything's done for this year, we're gonna just wrap this up and say this sheet has been marked final. So I'm just gonna go to the file bar and select mark as final. And I've marked this spreadsheet as final, and editing is currently disabled. And only by clicking on final and enable editing, or clicking on enable editing here, you can get back to the editing mode. But other than that, you have the option to use none of these features. And I'm gonna click enable editing now for now, and click OK. So this will get back to your original state where you can still edit or do anything into your spreadsheet. And the final feature that we're going to discuss about under collaboration is custom email notifications. Whenever you want to get notified or updated with every comment or edits made inside your spreadsheet, your work can continue smoothly without any manual check-ins. You can use the custom email notifications. So let's see how to do that. Go to the tools bar, select email notification settings. Now you have the option to get notified when there is any comment added in the spreadsheet, or when someone's tagged you in a comment or I've participated in that comment. You can also get notified then. And instantly getting notified is also for any changes made by the collaborators of the spreadsheet, or only when a specific range has been selected or modified. Let's say I want to click onto this. I can select a specific range. I want to say only when this range is being modified, when there's some really important data there, I want to get notified. Click on OK and save. This way you'll stay on top of all of the changes made within your spreadsheet. So we saw how to use workflows and set on a reviewable or an approval process within your spreadsheet without having to go to their chat box and keep on telling them to review your workbook or just everything. And we saw mark as final to use once everything's been finalized and you want no more changes and to be held in a read-only state. You can use mark as final. And next we also saw custom email notifications to just be notified whenever there are many collaborators in your sheet. There might be changes and edits happening in and around the sheet, so you want to get notified of everything. So that's when you use custom email notifications. And that brings us to the end of the session. We've covered different functionalities from data entry, collaboration, and automation to AI. And I hope the walkthroughs helped you see how these features can simplify your everyday work. And before we wrap up this session, there's another important feature release happening later this month. So stay tuned to get all the updates as soon as they're out. And this sheet and the recording of the webinar will be shared with you shortly. If you need any further assistance, you can reach out to us through multiple channels. Our phone lines are open 24/5 for support, and you can find the contact numbers on our website. We also offer a live chat option available 24/7. Just visit the Zoho Work Tribe website and click on the chat icon to connect with our support team instantly. And if you prefer email, you can always reach out to us at our support email address for any queries or assistance you need.